It has. It's been such a
Thank
journey.
you.
And I just wanted to say hi to everyone that's joining us today. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll definitely touch base with y'all in just a little bit. So today I'm just super excited because Johnny and I are going to be talking about the dark night of the soul. And if you guys are tuning in, more than likely, you're probably on the same frequency and have gone through a spiritual awakening. But if you're new to this awakening world, I just wanted to kind of like give you guys an explanation of what the dark night of the soul is. The dark night of the soul is basically a rite of passage that occurs whenever we go through a spiritual awakening. What it is we're going through a deep egoic transformation and letting go of our false self, and we're releasing who we think that we are. And we begin to challenge our deep rooted beliefs in the foundation that we once had is being completely shattered, and we're getting the opportunity to build our life from the ground up. So it's an opportunity for us to restructure and reorganize ourselves to a higher layer of consciousness, to a higher level, and to a higher frequency that we're in. So today I'm just really looking forward to having this conversation with you, Johnny, because we met each other, I believe, was it in 2020, Johnny?
Yeah. Yeah, right when the pandemic hit, that
Right.
pandemic had actually just hit.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've known each other for such a long time, and we've gone through so many ups and downs, even within our own friendship, to where at some point, we actually made a conscious decision to disconnect and to stop speaking because we were going through such a deep transformation and releasing the things that we no longer were. And I know for myself, and I'll speak for myself, is like I was just going through so much pain and so much suffering, and I did not want to project that onto you. So I'm grateful that we were able to take a step back from our relationship as friends and then come back together whenever we were more healed. You know what I mean?
Well, we were on the same
Yeah.
frequency, because that's the thing. We leveled up. We're leveling up in consciousness, and that's one thing that, like, when we first met each other, we were both going through it. I was going through a dark night of the soul in the sense of, like, I couldn't even trust my own self, yet alone somebody else.
Exactly.
How can I trust somebody else when I can't trust my own intuition? Because, like you were mentioning, as you're coming out of this, who you thought you were. The first thing to do, though, is to recognize that you are going through a dark night of the soul. Recognize what's happening. Bring awareness to your surroundings, to the patterns that are happening in your life, for you to able to recognize it, to start making a conscious decision to make change. But of course, in the process, it's easier said than done, because when you're in it, you never think it's going to be over.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're more religious, as they say, God's not going to give you more than you can handle.
Yeah.
Or you can see it as your higher self, because you chose this. As hard as people want to not understand and believe that, like, why would I choose a life like this? Or why would I choose toxic parents or a life of trauma, should I say?
Right.
Then it's because, like, you are the chosen. This is where, like, the chief talks about being the chosen ones. But before I even start into that, man, I do want to say thank you to the chief, man. Thank you, most definitely to Mark, Amanda, the Impact Uprising. Just because if it wouldn't have been for you guys to at least help guide me, like, help me understand what I was going through, because, like I said, a lot of the times you won't even recognize that you're going through a dark night of the soul.
Yeah. That's
because
true.
you already conditioned. You're conditioned a certain type of way. So you're used to I'm not saying you're used to abuse, but you're subconsciously searching for that validation or that same frequency that you grew up with, that same pattern.
Yeah.
So the first thing is to recognize your worth. Recognize that, like, because, like I said before, and I'll say it again, as you awaken, one of the biggest things you're going to understand and realize is you didn't love yourself. You didn't care for yourself.
Right.
You were giving your power away. Everything was, what are they going to think of me? How do I get them to like me? Everything's external. And that's going back to what you're saying, you know, you're ridding yourself of the old you, of who you thought you were, who you think you are, which is the, what do they call that? The egoic mind, the pattern egoic mind, in the sense of what you do every day. You get up every single day, you go to work, you're doing things not even knowing. You're walking the matrix. That's what they call it, walking the matrix. Yeah. But go ahead, if you want to chime in.
There's just so much stuff that you've said that it just gave me chills. One of the things that really stood out to me is thinking that I never thought that the dark night of the soul was going to even be over. First of all, I didn't even know what was occurring. I had no idea what I was going through. You know, I had moved from San Antonio to Austin, Texas. And I did that because my family was like, well, you can't come back here. You know, I was just starting to get sober. My whole foundation like had fallen apart. I didn't have any friends. I couldn't live with my parents. I was living in a sober living home. I had just come out of rehab, and I was there for like 3 or 4 months. And then I was in sober living with a bunch of people that were still very much resistant to change. And it was challenging for me because I knew that I could no longer continue my life the way that I had been living it, but I did not know how to move forward either. So it was really terrifying for me, Johnny, because it was like, I didn't know what was happening. I was experiencing so much pain and suffering. And one of the reasons why I was experiencing so much suffering was because I was resistant to let go of that idea of who I thought that I was. I thought that I was this victim. I thought that I needed to blame other people for what was going on in my life. I did not know how to take personal responsibility for anything, but at the same time, I was finally aware that that type of thinking was no longer going to work for me.
Yeah.
You know,
because you're practicing, you're starting to, you started to recognize the patterns in your life. You also, like, what helped me big time was understanding you're having an ego death. The old you is dying. And if you, once you start to understand what the ego is, meaning the false you, it's who you think you were, or who you, and it doesn't want to die. The old you does not want to die. It wants to keep you safe.
It doesn't. It wants you to be safe. And the thing is that the ego, I felt like I was literally dying and I didn't know what to do. And I felt like there was something like within my body, just like holding on for dear life and scratching from the inside and just trying to desperately get my attention because it was scared. It was scared to do something different. It was scared to have a new perspective because, as you said, you know, like, man, the ego wants us to stay safe. It wants us to stay in a place where we're always doing the same thing, because if we're doing the same thing, we're in our comfort zone and it's not being challenged and it can be at peace.
Exactly. So once, like you're saying, it wants to stay safe. It doesn't want to change. And that's the whole purpose of your suffering, or people suffering. People have to understand that that pain, that they're suffering, that they're going through, it's there for a divine purpose. And I understand it's hard to understand and see it and be like, because like you were saying, like you said something very, very key. It's, you start becoming a victim. You start identifying, because now it's safe. Now it's safe to be a victim. It's safe to blame other people because I don't got to take accountability for my actions. If I blame you, if I can find someone to take accountability for not facing my own demons, my own shadows. You know, so as that transmutation of the old you into the new you, it's gonna take for you to let go.
It does.
And the faster you do surrender, the quicker the dark night of the soul, or not even quicker, it's more, it becomes easier. Because you start to recognize the patterns. You start to shine awareness of what's really happening and what's really going on. Your discernment gets more on point. You know, your spiritual discernment.
It starts to get more on point. And one of the things that I have realized now, looking back at my experience of the dark night of the soul, is that my emotions were never wrong. They were basically like an invitation. So if, for example, if I went through a situation with someone and I got triggered, it was just a gift in a sense. It was just shedding light on something that I needed to change. My perspective needed to change. And in order to go through this egoic death, what I needed to do was let go. And when I say let go, I don't mean like spiritual bypassing, like sidestepping the issues that are coming up. I'm not saying don't look at the trauma. What I'm saying is to let go of the resistance to what is. Like, be willing to, rather than turning my back on the trauma, rather than turning my back on the situations or my resentments or my fears, be willing to do like a complete 180 and look at it in that face to face. Look at it face to face rather than running from the inevitable. Because for me, as you know, I was in active alcoholism and drug addiction for 25 years. And so I was constantly just postponing the inevitable. And the inevitable was that I was going to have to face who I thought that I was. And I was going to need to let go of who I thought I was in order to ascend to a higher frequency.
Yeah, you have to recognize what are you running away from? You know, because even as you were waking from a dark night of the soul, the biggest fear of one or a person, it's that you're losing the old you.
Right.
And you're in the unknown. You're literally in the unknown. You don't know who you are anymore.
Right.
And that's the whole, you know, the being in the, what do they call that? In the void. You're in the spiritual void. So that's where you have to trust yourself. That's the part where you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. That's the part that you have to shed the old friends, because as you awaken, you want to tell everybody what's going on and you want to share so much, but to tell you the truth, a lot of the people don't give a crap about what's happening. And majority of the time, if it's the wrong people, they're glad it's happening to you, not them.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to find your tribe.
Right.
Find people who are going to listen to you, genuinely, understanding what you're going through. You don't, you're going to go through a grieving pain. Like I was saying, this pain that you're going through, like the best thing to do is like, if I was going to stay in this pain, what can I learn from this part that I'm going through? What is it that I can take from this? And as you start to focus your perspective to that better outcome, you're going to start to rise, as they say, from the phoenix, from the ashes. You're going to rise up because now you're focusing on what can happen rather than what's going wrong or what's occurring.
Yeah.
Because as you're going through a dark night of the soul, your energy and your trauma comes up. Everything comes up. And that is the time you have to transmute. That's where the alchemy comes in. That's where you're going to make the decision, maybe not consciously, but it's like, are you going to go, like I was saying before, or as Billy says, from you're going to go from PTSD to PTG, meaning post-traumatic growth. Make the conscious decision to be a conscious creator, not a victim. And it's difficult, but make that 1% progress. What are you going to do tomorrow or the next day to get out of that situation that you're in? And you're going to have to cut off people. That's the biggest thing, because as we were talking yesterday, when you're going to grow the most is where? When you're by yourself, when you're alone. That's where the alchemy happens. That's where you're going to start asking the right questions, the proper questions. Because as Tony Robbins was saying, what does he say? The quality of your questions is going to determine the quality of your life. So if you're asking, why is this happening to me? Then guess what's going to happen? This earth is going to say, oh, she hasn't learned her lesson yet. Let's show him or her, more of this so they can learn. Instead of like saying, what is my lesson here? What is it that I need to learn here to break this pattern from the matrix? Because that's when people talk about the matrix or the dark night of the soul, understand you're being reborn again. You're leveling up and consciousness. You're literally starting to see yourself from an elevated perspective. You're starting to see yourself of who you really are, your true self, your authentic self. Not the person who we were programmed to be, which is like I'm saying, and a lot of us, if you go into drugs or if you go into toxic relationships, what you're really doing is just avoiding the inevitable, which is time to yourself.
Yeah.
Get to know yourself.
And that's true. I mean, that's avoiding the inevitable is just kind of the way that people are programmed in this world today. Unfortunately, you know, with social media, with the news, with marketing, with just going to the mall or going to the grocery store, it's always the ads are just calling us to reach outside of ourselves to feel whole.
Yeah.
It's just asking us to, you know, drink a beer and then that'll make you feel more calm, or do some drugs, or to buy more things and all that stuff. But eventually, you know, it just it gets to a point where it's just like, okay, like that's not really bringing me any type of joy or peace. I don't know if you've ever been in this situation, but I used to shop like a lot. I used to be really addicted to shopping, and there was one point where I had gotten to a point in my life where I was just like looking through like racks of clothes, and I was like, damn, like what am I truly seeking? What is it that I really want? And I just like did like an about face and left the store, you know. But
what were you, and like when you were asking those questions, you know, you're not always going to get the answer, right? Like it takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
But
it does. But those questions, like you said, those are the transformation. That's when the transformation actually starts to begin, because that's whenever I started the path of like introspection. That's whenever I chose to like start looking within for the answers and stop outsourcing my wisdom from other people. You know, it was an extreme blessing to go through my spiritual awakening. Well, it started in 2019, but the dark night of the soul really started to gain some footing, I guess, in 2020 whenever COVID had began. And we were told we couldn't go outside, so I chose to go within, and that's the time whenever I shed all of those old friends. That's whenever, what was that?
Yes. No, you're saying, go ahead.
Yeah, like, so I shed all of those friends, and it's important, you know, like, for me, one of the most helpful things was for me to find my tribe of people that were on the same frequency, that were doing their best to do what they could to change who they were, because the way that they were living prior to their spiritual awakening wasn't working anymore, you know? So that's why I was like so grateful whenever I found the Empath Uprising, as it was called back then, and now it's the Chosen 144 with Pete Sapper, because I remember just going through YouTube videos and looking for answers, because I didn't know what was going on and I felt so alone. And finally, like, I realized, okay, like, I'm not alone. Other people are experiencing this.
Yes.
If people are doing the necessary work to change, people are going to get to a point of a spiritual awakening.
And there's no way to
avoid it.
There's no way.
There's no way to avoid it. And the thing is, like, when I started to go through that spiritual awakening, it was like I was going through a grieving process.
Yeah,
It was exactly like if I lost you know what, I'll take it back. It was like, it was worse than losing someone that was close to me to death.
Yeah, you're losing your identity. You're losing a part of yourself. You're losing the old you. Yeah, man. It's like mind-boggling.
To die before we actually like die and transition from this body into like
you're being reborn. You're being reborn.
And the thing is, Johnny, and I'm sure maybe you have experienced this, but for me, I have gone through so many ego deaths. I think I went through like 2 in the month of January in 2023. It's like the growth in my life has started to accelerate on such a different level. But the thing is that's changed for me is I'm willing to allow this to happen. When in the past, you know, I had just so much resistance to these ego deaths. I was so scared and terrified. But it was me, whenever I was trying to hold on to who I thought that I was, that was causing the suffering. It was the attachment to my old identity.
You're trying to control.
Causing that.
Because you're trying to control the situation.
Yeah.
And So going back to like what you were saying about, you know, your spiritual awakening in 2020, like if now that I'm starting to pay attention more, like to synchronicities, pay attention more to the universe, because as you shed the old you are no longer paying attention or giving your energy away. So now all that energy, everything comes back to you. And when you start to trust yourself, when you start to use your own discernment and actually follow your downloads, follow what's giving you your calling, what I came to realize, it's like this has been happening for a while already.
Yes.
You know, so you're so the first calling, because it was like a great awakening. Like many were called, but few were chosen. In the sense of, okay, you were called, but are you gonna do the work now? You know what I mean? Are you gonna lose who you thought you were? Because that's exactly what. Because like I said, like mine started like in 2019 as well. Like, you know, like I mentioned before, you know, waking up from me being in a toxic relationship, me understanding like, dude, my life is fake. It was never real. Like like me thinking that this girl, because it was a covert narcissist, like me thinking that like they're a certain type of person, they weren't it. So that alone, it gives you cognitive dissonance. So you go insane, like you literally go crazy. And what I came to realize that what that did to me was arise all your traumas. Everything that you had, you know, your abandonment wounds, you know, your whatever it is that you're going through, it's gonna come up. You know, mine was like, it was more like, I'm gonna show everybody that you know what I mean, that you are a narcissist. And like what I came to realize, dig two graves, because you're gonna go down that path as well, because you're going down the wrong path. But at the same time, I am grateful for that. Why am I grateful for that? Because it has made me who I am today. I know that I had to go through that type of pain in order for me to recognize it, make a conscious decision to change. Because as I said, you're going to realize that you're awakening. Now, am I going to continue the same path consciously? But now it's going to even go tenfold bad for you. Because now you're not calling, now you're understanding, now you're waking up. So you're either going to be, like you're saying, if you're a yoga or high priestess, you're either going to become a dark empath, because that's pretty much what you are, meaning you're going to use your spiritual gifts, you're going to start using everything that you have, which is like, you know, because what you start to realize is like, dude, I can read people very easily. You mean I can let you know which route, but at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword of the Chiron, like, but yet we can't really take our own advice sometimes. But at the same time, what I came to realize is, as you share your magic, as you share your medicine with other people, you're also healing yourself. Because at the same time, you're hearing yourself speak. You're in your own self as a higher level perspective. You're seeing yourself speak. You're healing yourself. Your own cymatics is healing yourself. That's what's very, very. There's one more before we move on. It's be gentle with yourself. I cannot stress that enough. Be kind to yourself, because as you awaken, you're gonna make mistakes. But as you make a mistake, recognize a mistake, like Billy says, meditate on it, see what can you have done differently, and then actually forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for putting yourself in that situation. Forgive them for yourself. Just the point is to forgive yourself for allowing. That's the biggest thing to do. And as you do that, speak kindly to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. You know, pretend like if you're talking to, like, because I have a son, so something like, would I talk like this to him? Like, no, I wouldn't. Because what I've realized, you know, when you're waking up, you know, like I said, you don't love yourself. You realize you don't really care much about yourself. So it's literally reparenting yourself. It's literally, it's getting to know who you truly are. Because what I learned the other day is a thought that meets an emotion becomes a belief. So if a thought becomes an emotion and it becomes a belief, it can also happen if like, so through trauma, or it can happen with growth. But it's up to us to be conscious to make that choice. You have to make the proper choices in order to get out of this dark night of the soul. And the more you're going to trust yourself, the more it just gets easier. You mean, that's just all I'm saying, because you're still going to go through it. People are still going to trigger you. You mean, but the difference is you're recognizing. You're leveling up in consciousness. You're literally you're able to see them through their trauma,
Yeah.
through their perspective. You know, as I'm learning, you know, sorry for going on a rant right now, but
No, I get it. There's just so much to cover, Johnny.
so much.
There's like I mean, we could probably talk every single day for God knows how long about all the things that we've gone through, just because there's just so much that we've learned to transmute and transcend. You know, one of the things that I wanted to touch on was being a dark empath. So for me, that's what was going on for the first 39 years of my life. I was using my spiritual gifts for manipulation and greed, and to benefit myself. And I did not know how. I just thought that was the only way, to be honest. But
Well, because that's all you knew. It's literally all you knew.
that it's true. It's all that I knew. But not only that, like, it had gotten to a point where the karmic debt started to be so heavy, and the negativity that was being reflected back to me was just so intense that I knew that I needed to switch it around or shift it or do something
Shift your perspective. Yeah.
Because it was like the mirror was kind of like just looking at me all the time, and it was always in service to self. What can I attain? What can I get? What can I get from you? It was always about selfishness, self-centeredness, stealing, manipulation, and greed. But it just got so heavy, and the consequences were just so intense that I chose to, you know what, I can't do this anymore, or I can continue to do this, but it's going to have consequences. And to be honest, this is just too heavy for me. So that's when I learned to like reverse it. And it was interesting because the other day I was having a conversation with my mom, and she was like, you know what, Michelle, she's like, I'm just going to say this. She's like, I'm really glad that you switched your life around, because I always saw how powerful you were and how you can manipulate out of people and get whatever it is that you needed. But if you only shifted it to helping others, that you can manifest whatever it is that you want, you know? And it's like I was telling you last night, like, I've just been manifesting right and left. Like, I got this free treadmill, I got this free record player, I got this free, all this equipment for my YouTube studio and all these things. And it's because I've learned to shift my focus on what it is that I can attain to what it is that I can do for other people. And another thing that I wanted to touch on too that you spoke about is having like these higher level conversations with people that are going through a spiritual awakening. One of the most transformative things that I chose to do was to start my YouTube channel, to start my Instagram in March of 2020. And it was for many reasons. One of them was to be in service to other people, to share my wisdom so that they knew how that they can get out of the pits of hell in their addiction and learn how to live a life free of mind-altering substances. And another reason was because I realized how powerful it was to hear myself speak, and to vocalize and to just share my experiences and hear myself out loud, because I could have these realizations that I wouldn't have necessarily had if I would have just kept it all in my head. You know, like people always talk about the power of writing and putting pen to paper, and not just to think it and write it in ink. But I feel like speaking has been the most transformative thing that I started to do since my spiritual.
And you're 100% right. Like, I agree with you, because as well as you're awakening and you're sharing, because as you start to share, like you said, you're hearing yourself and you're also seeing yourself. So as you're seeing yourself, you see the trauma-based person that you are. You know what? I need to slow it down a little bit. Like for me, like once I get into that flow, I start to I get into that channeling or whatever it is. But the thing is, like, you know what? But so that's the whole point. If to start your channel, man, like I say, if it's to share about the narcissist, if it's to share about child trafficking, if it's to share about whatever it is that you know that you're here to do, like, find your calling. Like, what is it that's feeding my soul? Like, and start taking action. That's the most important thing. Like I was telling you the other day, like, I started feeling bored. And I'm like, why am I feeling bored? See, but I start to ask myself those questions.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you stop creating. Start creating. And then, like I was telling you, like, as you start to hear yourself, and as you because now you're putting it out to the universe. You mean now you're speaking it into existence. And now if you back that, like I was saying earlier, with emotion, that's that whole mind and heart coherence, you'll move mountains. As a conscious creator, you're going to manifest what you want. Don't get attached to the outcome. But remember, these are all levels in transmuting as you awaken. Like these are all levels of consciousness. But first, recognize the pattern. Recognize a toxic relationship. Recognize your own addictions. You know, like you were saying, like, you had one of shopping. I'm like, that would have been a nice one to have, but first you need money, But that alone, just me even thinking, that's the poverty mindset.
Yeah.
You mean you're thinking lack, and that's a download that I got growing up. You know what I mean? So now it's like I don't even think of that anymore. You mean it's like now it's like, okay, like I tell my son, as long as if you can find what you love to do, you never have to work a day of your life, my son. Whatever it is, just find what you love. Because, the mom wants to send them to college, or the mom wants to, send them out. Like, dude, like not everybody is for school.
Right.
And not to mention, once you start to realize how the matrix works, like the matrix just keeps you trapped. It wants you to look for loans, because by the time you figure it all out, it's too late. Like, it's too late, meaning you're already dying. And the time is to live now. Get to know yourself now. It's happening all over. Like it or not, this transformation, this level up of consciousness, this, what do they call it, Christ consciousness, this era of the golden age. Look up spiritual teachers like gurus and stuff. Just to, like I said, it doesn't mean to follow everything and believe everything they're saying.
Yeah.
Take what resonates with you. See what you can learn from it. And make it your own. Find out who you are. Because the more other people share, and like I say, and the more you put more material out, more content out, you're unlocking somebody else's codes, because you're sharing medicine.
Yeah.
You're sharing who you truly are. Right. You know what I mean? And because somebody else was probably went through the same thing. You mean now, but the ego is going to come in. What I mean by the ego, oh, look at my likes. Who's listening to me? Who's hearing me? Dude. Yeah. You're attached to the outcome. Now you're becoming attached to the outcome. And that's the whole journey, is recognizing the ego. Recognizing that's the old you trying to come back in line. Is trying to come back in, because that's what you're familiar with. And now if you don't practice boundaries, if you don't practice, loving yourself, other people or toxic people are going to come right back in. So that's why it's important to work on yourself. It's important to get to know yourself. Because the more you get to know yourself, the more you're going to see through others. The more you're going to be able to see if they're lying to you, deceiving you, or hurting you. And then that's when, like I said, the power of letting go. This is no longer serving me. And as you free space up, because now you're freeing space up in the mind as well, in the brain. Like, now you're freeing that space up to start learning, to bring in a new program, to bring in a new way of being. Yeah. And that's what people have to understand as you're having a spiritual awakening, as you're activating your third eye, because that's what is really happening. You're activating your third eye. Your spiritual antenna is now becoming activated. You're working on your chakras. You mean that's where the whole spiritual comes in? But at the end, or with the spiritual work, you're going to realize it's all about leveling up consciously. You're leveling up to be able to ascend to higher dimensions, because ultimately that's the whole thing. But you can't do that if you're still fucking worried about the narcissist, if you're still getting high, if you're still worried about your next fix. You're not going to be able to do that. How the hell can you focus on that? You can't. That's why it's very important in the dark night of the soul to get to know yourself. Yeah. That is your initiation. If you can come out through that, you're going to become stronger. Because now you shed at the old, now it's time to build. Like I said, just because you're awakened doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean nothing. Now the knowledge is going to come, and you can know all the knowledge, but it's applied knowledge. Now apply it to your life. That gnosis you're getting, share it with others. Help others. Now, use your discernment. Who's going to listen and who's not? That's what, like I said, you're shifting timelines. You're now creating your own timeline. As a conscious creator, you're now creating your own timeline. You're manifesting what you want. Now you're manifesting with intention. But the biggest thing that I was telling you yesterday with people like myself or ADHD it's very hard to make a decision. Why? Because we're constantly all over the place. But if you're able, because you have a power focus, make a decision, a conscious decision to what you want, and start taking action to whatever that is. And like something else that I picked up the other day as well was create something. Whatever it is, if it's a drawing, if it's something, create it. If it's a video, if it's something that you learn, if it's a post, share it with others. Give it away. And as long as you give it away, you're bringing joy, not just into your life, into others. And that's the whole consciousness. That's a whole shifting the way of being. But sorry to go on a rant there, man. But yeah. And so that's what, because my most important theme, Michelle, is like you were saying. We can keep on talking about this. We can keep on telling people about what's going on, but it's really up to the person.
Yeah.
It really is up to you. Because once you recognize that you're suffering, like it's now a choice. It's a conscious choice. Now you're just becoming the victim. It's not bad to become the victim, but the thing is, just don't dwell in there, and learn to transmute it, and learn just to, because a lot of us, we pass judgment. A lot of us pass judgment. A lot of us are stuck to old beliefs, where we're stuck to old ways of being. And that's what the dark night of the soul is for. It's for you to recognize that, let go of the old, that is not you no more. Embrace the new. Enjoy the process. Trust the process, most importantly. And it's a new way of being. It's literally a new way of being.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, for those of you that just walked into the room, thank you so much for being here. Johnny and I today are talking about the dark night of the soul, and one of the things that really stood out for me, Johnny, was the importance of getting to know ourselves during the dark night of the soul. And I think that making that decision to completely change everything and just focus on changing myself was so important for me, because prior to going through my spiritual awakening and any type of decisions that I was making in my life, I always had like one foot in and one foot out. I was kind of ready, and then I was like, no. Like I would take a step forward and then I took a step back, And so whenever I went through my spiritual awakening, that is whenever I had all of the willingness in the world. And I said, you know what? I am just going to do this. I'm going to change everything about me. And one of the things that I wanted to share with y'all too is like the importance of emotionally detoxing. Because if I would have stayed in the same mindset, I would not have been able to ascend to like higher frequencies and higher levels of consciousness in my life. What I needed to do was to be willing to look in that proverbial mirror and look at all of my fears, look at all of my resentments, look at all of my traumas, be willing to go through that storm and not tiptoe around it, but to go straight through it and experience all of those emotions, to forgive people that I had resentments against, but most importantly, to forgive myself for abandoning myself for my entire life, and whether that was by using mind-altering substances, drugs, shopping,
sex.
Sex. I mean, the list goes on and on. To me, Johnny, like addiction is the same. All it is reaching to something outside of ourselves to make us happy and to feel complete. And none of it works. And eventually, we always come back to ourselves. And I
get tired of it. You get tired of it.
Yeah, it's just like if you get drunk, everything's fine, you're having fun, and the next day you come back to yourself and you're miserable, you're hungover, and you're looking in that mirror and you're like, damn, like I'm right back to where I was yesterday and nothing has changed. And you can continue to perpetuate that hell on earth, or you can make a decision to do what most people don't do. And that's just like take responsibility for your life and to do the work that is necessary. And one of the things that was really helpful for me, Johnny, was to purify my 5 senses, so take a look at what it is that I'm focusing my eyes on. What is it that I'm consuming? What am I eating? Changing the way that I eat. What type of music am I listening to?
You're
and
bringing awareness.
also,
You're bringing awareness. You're bringing awareness.
yeah, bringing awareness, and also just like purifying all five senses. So for me, it's like being celibate for years and years. And one of the reasons why I chose to do that wasn't to deny myself like sex, or to say that I wasn't deserving of it or something like that. But I knew that having that physical attachment with another person would cause me to shift my focus from myself, which is what I was trying to heal, onto
Exactly.
someone else. And back then I was in a place where I felt like I needed to fix everyone and everything.
People
And
pleasing.
if I did that, then that meant that I'm not looking at myself, and I'm not willing to go on the inside to change everything that I needed to change about me, you know?
Yes.
Another thing that you had mentioned was the importance of boundaries, and boundaries are definitely important. But one of the things that has really helped me manifest in my life is coming to a place where I started to say to myself, everything is allowed. Like, other people's behavior is allowed, the way that they treat me, that's allowed, like letting go of attachment, letting go of judgment, and just saying like, oh, that's an interesting perspective, you know,
That's what it
or
is.
not taking that personally, and realizing that things that people say towards me are just inner projections of past experiences that they have gone
Yep.
through, or previous resentments, that if someone's angry at me and yelling at me, that most of the time it has nothing to even do with me. But in order to get to that place of having that mindfulness and that awareness, I needed to spiritually detox. I needed to let go of those false perceived notions and ideas. I needed to let go of the programming that was given to me by my family and teachers and society. But in order to do that, I needed to go to a quiet place. And that quiet place, thank God, was during the pandemic, and we couldn't go outside. So I chose to go within, and I started to do a lot of silent meditation. And I learned how to not only talk to the universe, but I also learned how to listen. So praying is like speaking to the universe. Meditation is just listening. So it was like having a two-way conversation. And whenever I think of like relationships that are successful in life, what I think is how important communication is. Like if you and I are friends, and every time that I call you, I'm just, you know, having a monologue, and I'm just going off for an hour. And then at the end of the hour, I'm like, okay, Johnny, it was nice talking to you. Bye. Like, how successful is that friendship going to be? Are we going to be
Well,
able to support each other?
no, of course
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. So it's just like having that conversation with the universe, and being willing to go into a quiet space, speaking to the universe. And then also after that, just being in a place of receptivity to hear whatever comes my way.
And what kind of work, Michelle? If you don't mind, sorry.
No, go ahead.
What kind of work did you do that helped you shift that mindset, that helped you understand your higher self? Like, I know you started doing recently qigong, right, as well?
Yes. So what did I start doing at the very beginning that
Yeah,
was
like
able to shift my mindset?
yes.
Stop focusing on myself so much. That's one of the things that was really helpful, is to help. It helped me whenever I started to focus on helping other people. But it's
Okay.
interesting because when I say that out loud, like now I realize like there's no me, there's no you. We're all just reflections of each other. But in my state of consciousness back in 2020, the thing that helped me was to stop focusing on what it is that I wanted, to stop focusing on what it is that I needed. And I started focusing on what it is that I could do to pack into the stream of life. What is it that I could do to help other people that were here in this world? And that really
being a
helped
service
me.
to others.
Exactly. It was learning to go and shift from being in service to self to being in service to other people, letting go of selfishness, and making conscious choices to help other people that were struggling in life. Also, something else that was really helpful for me, Johnny, was just like going into gratitude for everything that I had.
Gratitude.
Because in 2020, I was really grateful. I was living in a sober living home. The year prior to that, I was like living on a trap house floor. You know, I had almost lost my left arm due to an abscess from like shooting up heroin and meth. and my family wasn't allowing me into their house, and I didn't have any friends, and I was living in a city where I didn't know anyone. So I had a lot to be grateful for, and rather than feeling sorry for myself for all of the things that I was going through as a result of my poor choices for 25 years in addiction, I chose to shift my focus from poor me to thank God for this, this, and that.
PTSD to PTG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very easy to shift focus, but the thing is, there has to be a willingness to make that shift, because we can feel like victims, or we can just be grateful for what it is that we're experiencing. And I'm not saying that from like a spiritual bypassing place, but just being acceptance to what is, and realizing that in order to have like a new future, to have experience a new type of world, that I needed to be willing to take action to change those things.
And one more question, because you just said it, but what exactly is spiritual bypassing to somebody who doesn't know what exactly it is?
Yeah. So spiritual bypassing, to somebody that's never really heard that word, is just like saying like if, for example, goodbye, like if somebody is having a conversation with you and you say something to me that's negative, you know, like quote unquote negative, like you're having a bad day, you're going to work, and like people are treating you disrespectfully or whatever, like, and then I tell you, you know what, good vibes only, Johnny, like love and light, you know, it's like, it's just bypassing or sidestepping the issues, rather than saying like, okay, well,
like ignoring our shadows. It's kind of like ignoring our shadows.
Don't ignore the shadow. Don't ignore that emotional or the traumatic response that you're having due to that conversation that your coworker's having with you. That's more like an invitation, and it's a gift. It's an invitation that's saying, you know what? Okay, you're triggered. Perfect. That means there's something within inside you that needs to change. There's nothing that needs to change in the world. It's something within you. You either have an expectation for people to act a certain way, and if they don't act that way, you're subconsciously giving yourself to get offended, annoyed.
Perfectly said.
So
perfectly said.
What is going on within you? Like, because most of the time for me, if I have an emotional response to someone's behavior, it's reminding me of something that happened in the past. I can give you an example, okay?
Go ahead.
A couple of days ago, I went to go play basketball, and I was playing basketball at this outside court, right? And it was just me and my fiance, and we were there playing, and then suddenly there comes a bunch of women with workout equipment and stuff, and they just start putting their stuff like on the other side of the basketball court, right? And they start whispering to themselves and being really passive aggressive, and they're just like, no one's supposed to be playing basketball at this time. We have this time reserved, right? And it was funny to me, because I don't usually get really annoyed or have reactions, but I did that time. And I told my fiance, I said, I don't know why she's talking under her breath and being passive aggressive right now, because she didn't pay to be here, you know?
Yeah, no, dude, you weren't triggered. You just told her how it is. That's okay. That's perfectly fine.
I didn't say anything to this lady. I didn't tell her anything, but I was feeling. I told my fiance, I was like, she didn't pay for anything. I don't know why she's even talking under her breath. Why can't she just tell me to my face, you know? And what I realized, and it took me like a couple of hours to realize what was going on. In reality, she reminded me of somebody in the past that came onto the basketball court and just literally, it was like a team of guys that just ran me off the court because I was older, and they just like pushed me off and pretended like I wasn't there, and I seemed like I was invisible to them, right? And so that just triggered an emotional response of a resentment that I had yet to even look at. And
I got you.
She was reminding me of something in the past, and I probably reminded her of something in the past, because she thought that if I was there playing basketball, then she wasn't going to be able to do her, workout thing. So.
And one more thing, Congratulations. I think you said your fiance. I think.
Yes.
You said, okay. Congratulations on that one. I didn't get passed by. But yeah, man. So like you're mentioning though, every problem that does occur or stuff that does happen in our life, they're there for us to learn a lesson. You know, if you are irritated, if something does come up, if you are bothered because of what something is going on, pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Don't, like you're saying, don't spiritually bypass and ignore it.
Yeah.
Why am I feeling like this? Why am I feeling uncomfortable? And sometimes you might not get the answer right there and then, but the answer will come to you. The answer will come. You mean, like you said, I don't know if you got the answer right away, but you got your answer. You realized, hey, fuck, something just happened to me as I was small. So you let it go. Same thing happened to me the other day too. I was at the beach, and you know, I sat in my little setup. The kids are playing, and this like family got next to me, and like, you know, there was a shovel right there. Like they threw my shovel. I'm like, what the fuck? In my head, I'm like, because I'm just sitting there meditating, just, you know, being mindful, watching the beach, listening to the waves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my first thing, I'm like, my side eye, I look at my side eye, like, what the fuck? They just throw my shovel? I'm like, did this guy just throw my shovel? But I'm like, you know what? First of all, Johnny, why are you tripping? You know, why are you tripping? It's a beach. But first of all, you're by yourself. What are you going to do? Like, in other words, I start like to check myself, like my ego. Like, it's really just my ego. And at the end of it, I let it go. You know, they were really nice. They were offering us food to the kids. I'm like, you know what? They could have gone sideways. I could have been like, hey, what the fuck? Hey, watch my shit. You know what I'm saying? Right. But that would have just been a trauma response. That would have been more or less because of the ghetto in me or because of my own past. Oh, no one's gonna tell me nothing. Yeah. You know, I'm from the hood. I'm from Boyle Heights. I'm from the projects. That's all trauma-based stuff, as I'm realizing. But yeah, Michelle. So to go back one more time for people who are going through the dark night of the soul, understand it's not gonna last forever, and it's gonna feel like it. It feels like it as you're going through a dark night of the soul, but just understand you're going through that pain for a reason. You're shedding the old you. You're shedding the old person who you used to be. You mean you're no longer, like, whatever it is, understand, and I'll say this and I'll say this again, the narcissist in your life is there to wake you up. That's all they're there for. They're there for you to shine light on what you need to address, what you need to fix, the trauma that you're missing. And if you're anything like me, codependency was big. You know, people pleasing was big. Everything was external. Yeah. I needed my friends to tell me I was a cool guy. I needed to be with 2 or 3 girls. Yeah. I needed to sleep around. You know, and I didn't understand that part. I didn't understand why I needed that validation from other people. I didn't understand why I needed to have so many fucking friends. Why? Because I needed to be the cool guy. You mean, like, the ego, the false self, the person who I thought I was, but that's not you. You mean? So, like I said, once I found out that the person I was with was a covert narcissist, I lost my job. You know, you're losing everything. You're going to be stripped from your whole identity. Yeah. And the purpose to your suffering, the purpose to what you're going through is to level you up. You're leveling up in consciousness. You're starting to see things differently. You're going through a spiritual awakening. Yeah. And if you're a Heyoka, a high priestess, a dark empath, understand you're an alchemist. Alchemize, transmute that darkness. That's what you're there for. We're transmuters of darkness, from light to darkness. That's the purpose. Yeah. That's why laughter is medicine for the soul. It's there for a purpose. Shine your light. Be you. Remember who you are. Remember who you were before that toxic relationship, before you got into drugs, before you stopped, before you get validated. All that's what I'm trying to. Sorry, I get lost because there's other things coming to my head as I'm talking.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like I'm talking, but because there's so much. There's so much to share because everybody's journey is different. That's when I'm gonna say this right now. Before we do wrap it up, reach out to Michelle. Reach out to me. You mean I'm here to help. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to guide you. That's all it is. And the more I share with other people, I feel good about helping them. To give somebody an aha moment, to give somebody else a clarity, like I was telling you yesterday, I feel like I get a little feather in my wing. Yeah. I feel, I leveled up because it's like, now I'm living my purpose. I'm here living my dharma, which is by sharing, helping others. Recognize your gifts as like I'm saying, like in the dark night of the soul, once you rid yourself of everybody, focus on your gifts. What am I here to bring? You have the gift of gap. You have the gift of reading people. Now use it properly. Don't use it like you were saying earlier. Like me, I'm thankful that like me growing up, like I never was really like a dark empath like that. But if I would have not have met the tribe, met the chief, I would have. I would have hated people. I would have used that darkness to cause harm upon other people. I would have probably used this knowledge in a different way. But like I said, as you go through the dark night of the soul, you begin to realize that's not me. I can't do that to other people. I can't just use them and bounce.
Yeah.
Now, you were doing that unconsciously. You're doing that asleep. But that's what I'm saying. As you awaken to who you are, your true self, the real you, you start to embody. And that's what I'm saying. Embody who you are. Embody who you want to become. You're the person who, if it's love, if it's, embody that part. Like, love yourself, first of all. And once you start to do that, that's how you're living through your authentic self. You're living through, because now you're moving with intention, and not just with intention, but you're moving to be a service to others, to help others, not harm anymore. You know, and like I'm saying, man, and as you awaken, one big thing you're gonna realize, man, you're gonna have haters. You're gonna have haters, and it's okay. Like I've learned to embrace my haters. I learned to love it because now I can use that energy. Now I can show like, okay, I'm doing something right. If I have a hater, it's because I'm doing something right. You know, so that's kind of like the way I see through synchronicities and through, because now I'm paying attention to like, how can I use this to advance?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what like the whole PTG, the whole post-traumatic growth. You're no longer seeing things through a victim mentality. You're seeing things through a conscious creator. What can I consciously create? Because like I say, there's levels to awakening, and now I'm at the point where like attention, man, like, because you're always manifesting in your whole life. If you're asleep or not, you're manifesting on a daily basis. It's just you're doing it subconsciously, you're doing it asleep, you're doing it through the egoic mind. You're not doing it, you know, awake. Like, what is it I want to create? What is I want to give back? What is it that my soul wants? What is it I can provide to others? And those are the questions that I've realized, and as I'm taking those steps into that direction, I'm manifesting. Like I told you earlier, like when I got my award, like at first I was like, because it's like for me it happened so fucking fast. It happened so fast. It happened so quickly. Like next thing you know, 50, 60, I'm like, wow. But the reason I came to realize, wow, what I've been wanting. What have I been asking for? An audience. I've been asking for an audience. I've been asking for a group. So the universe providing me that. Like, okay, you want an audience? Here you go. Now now live up to what you're saying. That's what I'm saying. So if you consciously manifest, you could. And we're living examples. Like, we're literally living examples. I mean, right now, I might not be having the materialistic stuff, but because right now I'm working within. And I know the more I work within, it's going to reflect without. And money is only an energy exchange. So as long as I provide, that the universe is going to abundance, like you're saying, you started getting stuff out of nowhere. Because it's because you're aligned now. Now you're vibing on a different vibration. Now it's going to give you back what you're giving. Being conscious of your thoughts. Being conscious of what you're thinking about. What are you paying attention to? But the only way you're going to get to this level is if you let go of the old way of being, the old trauma-based responses. That's the only way you're going to get here, because it's your initiation. Once you start to learn all these little things, and as easy as it sounds, you're gonna unlock your codes. You're unlocking your DNA. You're unlocking your ancestors. You're unlocking your ancestors. You're unlocking the Akashic records. You can put this in so many ways. And like I said, and I'll say it again, the reason why I love Billy Carson is because he's able to articulate this, explain the metaphysics with spirituality, and it's not woo-woo no more. It's really, you know, we only see 1% of the light spectrum or something like that. So energy is all around us. It's the best analogy that I heard. It's like we're fishes in a fishbowl. Like we're fishing in the fishbowl, we just don't see it around us, but it's happening. You know, like I was telling you another one, the point of what I'm focusing right now, or what I've been paying attention to more, is like, dude, you are, like, you hear it all the time, but literally sit down, meditate with this for a second. You are a spiritual being. You are a ghost behind the shell. There's an internal being inside here, and you're just temporarily here in this earth right now, having this experience, and you're only going to have this experience right now, this very moment. So what are you doing? Take advantage of it. Take it. And it's not to go and do things. If you want to do it, but at the end, once you start to realize, what are you really running away from? Like, because you are the I am. You are the creator. And I know I sound a little bit more like, okay, what's this guy talking about? If you're going through the dark night of the soul, this is what I'm talking about. As you go through your transformation, you're going to get to this level of understanding that you're not just a fucking shell. Like, you're not who you think you are. You're just, all that is just an impression in your fabric of life, in your thought formation. That is not you. Those are just the past. That's a memory of the past. And if you're able to let go of that memory of the past, you're going to be able to focus on your third eye and start creating what you want into your reality. You're going to be able to collapse that into your reality.
Yeah.
Like, what is it you want to manifest? If it's a coaching gig, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I could go back out to the working world, but I'm just going back into the matrix. I'm just distracting myself. And I'm not living my full purpose as a Heyoka, as a chosen one, as a light worker, whatever you want to call it. You mean, but what I know what I'm living is living through my higher self. Not every day. It takes practice. It's not easy. It's a day-to-day work. You know, but what's helped me, like I was telling you earlier, getting yourself a daily routine, conscious breathing. You mean focusing on breath. Just like right now, I'm gonna just do it. Just taking a deep breath. Like I was telling the chief, get used to taking these deep breaths. Get used to bringing back here.
It's true.
For them, and I went on a little rant there for a little bit, but because like I said, there's so much, but every person is different. Reach out to Michelle, reach out to me. You mean, everybody's going to have a little bit their own way, but what we can at least do is guide, give you the outcomes, and it's up to you. Because that's I think one of the gifts that I have is a farsight, is to be able to see your outcome. If you start doing these little adjustments, you can make that difference. But how much do you want it? How much are you willing to care for yourself? How much do you love you? Stop caring about them. Let it go. Rid yourself of it. All that's doing is holding you back, is keeping you from knowing who you truly are, your own gifts. And in this time of darkness, this is the time you're gonna grow. This is the time where the alchemy happens. This is the time that it's you're stepping into a higher version of yourself, literally.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, you know, Johnny and I both have our YouTube channels, and they're both in the bio in Instagram. So if you click on the link, it'll take you to our YouTube channel. I have over 300 videos. Johnny, how many do you have right now?
I don't even know. I like over 500, but I've been posting a lot of shorts. You mean, and like, just to touch on this real quick, because you know, you're talking about posting videos as you're awakening. You could go through my old videos on my whole YouTube. Like, I was asleep, man.
Yeah,
I was like my day one, and you can see your own evolution. The big difference, right?
The difference.
Yeah.
So I mean, the reason why I'm pointing y'all towards our YouTube channel is, you know, you're not alone. There's like so many videos that we have where we're sharing our experiences. There's times whenever we're in our shadow, like really, really deep and in a dark place. And then if you go like fast forward like a year or two ahead, you can see there's been just such an amazing transformation. You know, Johnny and I are like super grateful for y'all being here today, and we're so happy to share our wisdom with y'all. And you know, there's just a lot to discuss, and I'd like to continue this conversation another time with you, Johnny, for sure, because you know, we've just gone through so many experiences over the past 3 years that the way that I see it is that if I keep the wisdom that I have attained and the clarity that I've received to myself, that's just being selfish. And I have realized like how important it is to share my experiences with other people. So if you guys are looking for like any type of guidance or anything like that, just feel free to DM me or Johnny. Yeah.
You know, I'm still practicing, guys. So like I said, like for me, it's an honor to help. It's you mean, it's literally an honor to help just hit me up, dude, and I'll listen. Like, literally, it's the biggest thing is to listen. I'm going to guide you. But if I see that you're not making the effort, the conscious effort, then I'm going to just withdraw my own energy, because all I can do is help you, like, show you the door. But you yourself are the one that needs to take steps.
It's true.
You are the one that's going to make the choice. No one's going to come saving you. Like, no one's going to come and save you. You are your own savior. You are the one who's going to be the shift. It's like, I don't have a backup plan. I am the backup plan.
Exactly.
It's like, you are the backup plan. And just understand that. And you are the chain breaker. You are the one here to make the difference. You are what your ancestors fully real. You are what your ancestors envisioned in reality right now. Like you are what your ancestors envisioned. You know, and fully reincarnated right now, man. That's
Yeah. Yeah, one other thing too that you know, and Seth, I thank you so much for all of your interaction here. It really means a lot to us. Everyone that's put comments in the chat and everything like that. You know, I'm just very grateful. What was that?
No, I'm saying because some guy, an old friend of mine said, "What's up?"
Oh, cool.
Go ahead,
yeah, like I'm just so grateful because about 2 months ago I was able to finally leave like the 9 to 5, the whole slave labor thing. I don't work for corporate America anymore. Like this is what I do. I share my wisdom with other people. I have learned to transmute all of my suffering into light and peace and liberation and like so much serenity. So if you guys would like any type of guidance, like please just let us know, because we're here to like serve you guys. So
and understand, like, one thing I do also want to mention is understand who you really are. Like, and I'll say it again, I'm going to keep on regurgitating this, during the dark night of the soul, you are the divine light. You are who you're seeking. You are, like, stop searching for love. You are love. You are happiness. You are joy. You are the I am. You know, so as long as you embody that part of yourself, you'll be okay. Just believe in yourself. You yourself, you are the game changer. That's what you need. That's kind of what I want to mention, man, because at the end, you're the one, man. It's going to be you.
Yeah, it's funny, you know, because just one other thing, you know, we're just taught as humans to look outside of ourselves for guidance, for wisdom. But it's a really beautiful place to be whenever I finally realized I was that which I have always sought. And really, truly embodying that, and not just knowing it intellectually, but actually have that inner knowing, like having that inner sanctum that I can reside in, that place of peace that I can be in all the time if I choose to be. But the thing is, you know, being a human being, sometimes things come up for us to take a look at. Sometimes I get triggered. Sometimes I get resentful. But the thing is now is I don't stay in resentment. I don't stay triggered for decades on end.
Exactly.
I'm able to, because I have done this spiritual detox and I have done this purification of my 5 senses, I have cleared my pineal gland, I have done energy work, I have focused on my breath, I have done a lot of Kundalini meditations, and I've gone into silence and meditation. Like I can see what exactly needs to be released, and I can learn to shift my perspective really quickly in comparison to where I was at whenever I first went through my awakening in 2019. So like there's so much to look forward to if you're going through a spiritual awakening right now. I know that it can be scary, but know that you're not alone. And if you're just watching this right now, that means you're on a completely different frequency than most people in this world. So you're in an amazing place. It's a
brave soul.
Change.
And you're a very brave soul.
Yeah. Because to be honest, you guys, like I'm just getting chills right now. Most people in the world want to stay and remain in their comfort zone. They don't want to take personal responsibility for their life. They don't want to change. They want to gravitate towards something outside of themselves to be happy. They want to just stay where they have been taught to stay and don't even know that there's a way out. So if you're here today, congratulations on just being aware enough and having the willingness to do something different. So, and
to see who you really are, man, to be able to see yourself in the mirror, like you're saying. You hate it, yes.
It's beautiful. So it's 11:11 over there, Johnny, and it's 1:11 over here.
Yes.
So thank you.